All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack a topic that, let's be honest, kind of intimidates almost everyone: real estate investing. I want you to picture a guy named James. James is incredibly relatable. He's just an ordinary guy working a regular office job, earning an average salary, and dreaming of financial freedom. But every single month, James watches property prices skyrocket, and every month, he tells himself, maybe I'll buy next year. He is completely paralyzed by the fear of making a massive, costly mistake.
So that brings us to a massive central question. Why do so many people actually lose money in real estate? It's a great question, right? Because we constantly hear about the millionaires, but the truth is, the market is an absolute minefield of expensive traps if you're uneducated.
Well, James actually reached a major turning point when an experienced mentor gave him this one pivotal piece of advice. He said, people don't lose money in real estate because they buy property. They lose money because they make the wrong decisions. Talk about a light bulb moment. James realized he didn't just need cash, he needed an education. So he studied successful investors and uncovered 10 massive pitfalls that we are going to unpack for you today.
Section 1. The hesitant investor. So, mistake number 1 is waiting for that perfect time. You know how it goes. You spend year 1 trying to predict the market, but by year 2, construction costs, prices, and rents are just continuing to rise. By year 3, inflation is literally shrinking the purchasing power of the savings sitting in your bank. And by year 4, you are suffering the huge cost of inaction. You completely lose out on years of rental income and capital appreciation, all because you are waiting for a magical, perfect moment that just never arrives. The experts all agree here. Buying the right property at the right price is vastly more important than trying to perfectly time macroeconomic cycles.
Section 2. Timing, emotions, and location. Okay, the absolutely crucial point here is the contrast between time in the market and timing the market. The data is super clear. Timing the market usually fails. Missing just a tiny fraction of the market's best days does massive damage to your long-run returns. And get this, because those best days almost always cluster right next to the worst ones, if you panic and sell to dodge a dip, you basically forfeit the recovery. Simply getting started and staying invested, that is the true driver of long-term wealth.
Moving on to mistake number 2, buying on emotion instead of actual research. Behavioral science points to things like heuristics, which are basically mental shortcuts, and FOMO, the fear of missing out. Some folks will buy a place just because it looks gorgeous on a glossy brochure, totally ignoring future development plans or real rental demand. Or they oversimplify the whole shebang and rely on just one metric, like price per square foot. And let me tell you, without context, that is incredibly misleading. Which leads us perfectly into mistake number 3, choosing the wrong location. Successful investors don't just look for a pretty facade. They hunt for very specific infrastructure indicators. They ask things like, is there a growing population? Are they building new transport links and highways? Is there high-speed fiber optic internet, modern schools, healthcare? These factors trigger a huge surge in demand from families and remote workers, and that is exactly what supports long-term property value growth.
Section 3. Debt, costs, and expectations.
Yeah, mistake number 4 is a big one: taking on way more debt than you can comfortably manage. To avoid this trap, professionals use something called the DSCR, or Debt Service Coverage Ratio. It's simply your net operating income divided by your total debt service. Basically, it measures how easily your property's income can actually cover its mortgage. If you aren't running a stress test to make sure you can handle an interest rate hike, or if you don't have a solid plan B, like say converting a short-term holiday let into a standard long-term lease, you are stretching your finances way too far. It's a recipe for disaster. And right alongside debt is mistake number 5, ignoring all those sneaky hidden extra costs. Guys, it is not just about the mortgage. You've got to account for maintenance, service charges, legal fees, insurance, property taxes, and vacancy periods, often called voids. Think about it. If you project a 20% profit margin but totally forget to budget for cleaning fees, taxes, and a random month with 0 tenants, boom, that entire 20% margin is instantly wiped out.
Mistake number 6 is really a matter of expectations. Expecting to become rich overnight. Flipping properties for quick cash looks amazing on reality TV, right? But in the real world, it carries massive risk. Real estate is fundamentally a long-term buy-and-hold game. You leverage the asset, your tenants help pay down your debt, and you build equity over years. Focus on steady, reliable growth, not those wild get-rich-quick schemes.
Section 4. Due diligence and diversification.
All right,
Failing to do proper due diligence is mistake number 7. You absolutely cannot rely on flashy marketing promises. You need to verify the title to make sure it's free of liens. You have to confirm zoning laws so you know you can actually use the property the way you're planning to. If you're looking at commercial spaces, you might even need an environmental site assessment to check for hazardous waste, and you definitely need to audit the existing lease agreements and building permits. Miss just one of these steps, and you could inherit a massive hidden liability that could bankrupt your whole portfolio.
You know, there's a really stark contrast in real estate. On one hand, you have the completely unglamorous reality of digging through stacks of assessment paperwork and aggressively crunching numbers. And on the other hand, you have the beautiful, luxurious end result you're dreaming of. But here's the thing. That magic end result, it only happens because of the boring, diligent, nitty-gritty work you put in first.
Mistake number 8 is putting all your eggs in one basket. Risking everything on a single asset is super dangerous. As you scale up, you absolutely need portfolio diversification. By spreading your money across residential homes, commercial office spaces, and vacation rentals in totally different geographic areas, you're protecting yourself. If the residential market softens in one city, well, a strong commercial performance somewhere else can help offset those losses.
Section 5. Overcoming fear and inaction.
There is a golden rule you have to remember here. Don't make 30-year investment decisions based on the last 30 minutes, or even the last 30 days of news headlines. This brings us to mistake number 9, letting short-term fear control your decisions. In psychology, this is known as recency bias. Whenever the market slows down even a little, amateurs completely panic and sell way too early. Successful investors, they ignore the loud short-term noise and stay laser-focused on long-term fundamental value.
The underlying root cause of all this panic is an academic concept called loss aversion. It's the psychological fear of losing that literally paralyzes us. It makes us hold on to a bad, money-losing property for way too long just because we don't want to admit defeat. Or worse, it makes us absolutely terrified to invest at all. Look, acknowledging this fear is completely normal. We all feel it, but you have to push through it with data-driven confidence.
Section 6. Building Wealth Over Time.
Which brings us to how James conquered mistake number 10, never taking action. He actually executed his plan. After years of saving up and actively educating himself to avoid those cognitive biases we just talked about, he finally bought a modest first apartment. Now, it wasn't a luxury penthouse. It was a simple, solid unit in a neighborhood with expanding infrastructure, stuff like new roads and new schools. He rented it out, used the income to cover the mortgage, and as the community grew, so did his property's value. And the best part? He didn't just blow the profits. He reinvested them carefully, step by step, eventually scaling into a fully diversified portfolio.
Years later, a friend actually asked James what his secret was to real estate wealth. James just smiled and said, "There is no secret. I simply avoided expensive mistakes, stayed patient, and invested in good locations for the long term." He didn't need millions to get started. He just needed careful planning, consistent saving, and the courage to actually take action when he was financially ready. Because at the end of the day, real wealth isn't built overnight. It's built one smart decision at a time. Your very first property could be the beginning of a journey that completely transforms your financial future. So stop waiting for that perfect moment. Take everything you've learned from this explainer today and ask yourself, what will your first smart decision be? Are you prepared for the opportunities hidden in tomorrow's market?